Hello, Facebook. It's Storic here from Give2Hours. Over the course of the next few months and the coming weeks, I am going to be interviewing very inspiring people who are making a big difference in the world. And we're looking for these moments that are going to inspire us into action. And it's so vital to remember that every single one of us has a part to play in what's happening in the world right now. And there's a big misconception that one of us can't make a big difference. So what we're going to prove in this interview is how simple and easy that can be. So it's my great pleasure to welcome Philip Dickenson from Forest Smoothie and Yoga for Nature. Welcome, Phil.
Thank you.
How are you today?
I'm good. Yeah. As you know, it's my first Facebook Live, so exciting times.
Yeah. Welcome to your first Facebook Live. It's an achievement in itself. Going out there live. We've got Jack on the call at the moment. Hello, Jack. Great to see you, brother. And what I'd like to talk about today, Philip, is exactly what you've created with, firstly, Forest Smoothie. How did this concept come about, and what exactly sparked you into action?
Many years ago, I had a career as a TV director, and about 4 years ago I walked away from all of that because I was coming into a space of deep sadness about what I was seeing in terms of our relationship with the environment and other beings on this planet. And the stories I was telling as a TV director, I essentially wanted to tell a different story. I think it's Eckhart Tolle that says that we cast ourselves as a protagonist in our own story, but it was more the global story that I was concerned about my typecasting, the role I was playing, and I wanted to play a more purposeful role, and create a story with a happy middle, like the present moment, I guess, and the ending. There will be no ending, we hope, but certainly a happier future. I quit my job as a TV director and I set up a charity, which I'm sure we'll talk about later, called Yoga for Nature.
Yeah.
Which essentially is about building community around environmental, human rights and animal rights causes globally. Because the yoga community, I'm sure, are in a heart-centered space, and they're coming into awareness, and they're looking for areas like Give2Hours where they can become a part of the social change that we're wanting to see. So Yoga for Nature is an effort to build a community with a subset of the world's population, which is those who practice yoga. And Forest Smoothie, I basically saw that cafes were becoming a real hub for social gathering. It used to be our town squares or our libraries back in the day. And now cafes, certainly here in Bali, are a place where people really enjoy spending time and communing, like talking to other people and talking about seed projects and getting things off the ground, inspiring one another. So I just thought this environment and these people were really, it was really rich, and they would be really receptive to this idea of social change. And so the idea is to put the Forest Smoothie in the menu in cafes all over the world. And when customers buy the Forest Smoothie, they contribute to planting a tree or protecting rainforest, old growth rainforest. So there's projects locally. So if the cafe is in New York, we will find a regeneration, a replanting, reforestation project on the East Coast, or they can contribute to the Amazon, to protecting old growth rainforest in the Amazon. Here in Bali, we're planting bamboo, or customers have the option of protecting rainforest in Kalimantan and Borneo and Sumatra.
Fantastic. Yeah, this project really, really resonates with me. I was contributing to a project not so long ago when I was running my property companies back in Edinburgh, and it was really about supporting habitat for the orangutan in Borneo and Kalimantan as well. So your project really resonates, and the simplicity of it is really fantastic. So I just couldn't believe that you could plant one tree or protect 1 acre of rainforest every time someone buys a smoothie. How do you make that happen?
Well, it's about the relationships that I've forged with NGOs. So I have got my hands dirty, and planted some trees myself, but the project's very new. I hope to do more of that, and I hope to involve friends and family and certainly customers in the replanting efforts. But we do this with strong alliances with NGOs and non-profits who are already working in these spaces, and primarily with local people. So if we're working in Borneo or Kalimantan, we're working with organizations that are employing and using the wisdom of indigenous people to regenerate or protect these areas. So yeah, I mustn't claim credit for what can be achieved. We're just a part of the team, I guess.
Yeah.
But on average, 1 glass, because of these relationships and because of the strategies, on average, the profit from 1 glass of forest smoothie will protect 1 tree or more. There's a cafe that plants 2 trees with 1 glass. But there's also a cafe that maybe doesn't quite get to planting 1 tree with their profit. But on average, it's 1 tree.
Right.
And depending which benefactor they choose to support, we might be protecting an acre. So what's happening there, to give you an example, in Bukit Tigapulu in Kalimantan, we're working with the orangutan project. So Bukit Tigapulu is a national park. So the concession is already there from government to keep this forest sacred and protected from palm oil industry or logging. But unfortunately that doesn't mean it's safe, because illegal logging and illegal poaching will still happen. So what we're doing is about 60% of our donation to the orangutan project creates wildlife patrols and illegal logging patrols.
Right.
So this is a vast area, it's a vast national park. So it's very important to protect it, but it's also logistically very difficult. So our money goes towards more men on the ground, more men and women on the ground protecting the forest and all the species that live there.
Excellent.
And also education of the communities on the outskirts of the forest, because as modernization takes over, people will no longer see the richness in biodiversity. Maybe sadly they forget about the forest medicines and the forest foods as they walk into supermarkets. Well, we go into schools and we educate the children about, natural biodiversity and the richness of this environment and why it needs to be protected.
What a fantastic project, and what I love is Philip's not tried to do this on his own. He's really found organizations that are on the ground already doing what resonates with his cause. So it's entering into collaboration. We don't have to do all of this on our own and reinvent the wheel when it's the local people on the ground that really know what's required. We can help just shine the light on the great work that they're doing and support that. And you have a wonderful story of one cafe here in Bali who are making an incredible difference just from selling your forest smoothie every month. Can you share exactly the impact that this one cafe is having?
Yeah, yes, every tree planted is a net gain, every tree sequesters carbon, every tree provides a home for a species or an organism that, supports life, supports us. So the impact is great for every smoothie sold, but, I am in awe of what can be achieved just, via one cafe, because it's the most popular selling smoothie on their menu. And they've just sold 150 in 1 month, averaging 5 a day, and they protect forests Bukit Tigapulu. So I think I need to crunch the numbers on that because I've just heard them this morning, but I think it's going to protect about 70 acres for 1 year. So 1 month of the consumption of a superfood smoothie will protect 70 acres of old growth rainforest that's been on this planet for thousands of years.
Wow.
Yes, that kind of gives me chills a bit. And that's everybody. That's the cafe that have, not just willingly but excitingly, with excitedness of backed this project. And their staff, when the staff are asked what's a good drink to have, they all say the forest smoothie because this is dear to their heart. They're Indonesians, and they know that Indonesia is now ranked, I think, second or third. I think third after the US and China for carbon emissions, for contribution to climate change because of the deforestation crisis here, because of the amount of carbon being lost and the sequestering capacity of the land in Indonesia. They're ranked third in the world for climate change contributions. Plus all the emotional sides of seeing their forests disappear. They're recommending the forest smoothie to every customer. Which is amazing because people are they're having their breakfast, their lunch or dinner, and they're protecting orangutans, they're protecting forest elephants, Sumatran tigers.
It's really amazing that even the staff of the cafe are getting involved and inspired by this smoothie and the difference that it's making. And I don't know about you listeners out there, but I am just absolutely gobsmacked. Around 150 smoothies sold, and that's 70 acres of rainforest protected for a whole year. It's just phenomenal, and that's happening on average every month from this one cafe. So if any of you are thinking of something that you might be able to do to help, if this cause resonates at all, just think of your local cafe, and what if the forest smoothie was on their menu, and every time you go to that cafe with your friends and you have that forest smoothie, you're helping protect the rainforest. How cool would that be? So, Philip, how could our listeners get involved in getting their local cafe on board for this amazing initiative?
I think face-to-face, a bit of personal interest shown and recommendation is always one of the best foots in the door. Like, so far in Bali, I think, some of the success of this project, quick success has been because I've rocked up to the cafes and I've, eye contact and I've connected with the people. Sometimes you're not able to do that on projects like Yoga for Nature. It's difficult for me to speak to a yoga studio on the other side of the world. I can't get on a flight. If I did get on a flight, I'd be contributing to problems. But with Forest Smoothie, I've worked locally and I've connected. So people can be the environmental foot soldiers, I guess, and they can go into their cafes and they can have the website ready. So www.forestsmoothie.com. On their mobile or laptop and show the cafe owner. It's very simple. The steps are very clear. And you choose one of 6 superfoods as a base that you'll be able to find locally. They help turn the drink green. And then they add local ingredients. Ingredients that are already a part of their supply chain, so they're not having to import bananas from overseas, or hopefully they can choose ingredients to create their own forest smoothie, and then you put it on the menu and you start selling it. And if you don't want to print your menu because that's an expense, or you just printed your menu, well, there's a blackboard, for specials, or we can create table talkies to go on the tables, which tell about the project and what Forest Smoothie does.
Excellent. And who would they be best speaking to? Would it be the manager or the assistant manager or the owner of the cafe?
I guess that might vary on, from cafe to cafe. Like, some of the owners are going to be very involved with their businesses. And I've had experience here in Bali, with a cafe owner who used to live in Brunei, which is, Kalimantan. So she's been very close to this issue. So when I spoke to her, it touched her heart.
Right.
But other cafes, I'll speak to the manager because the owner's remote. So I think you'd go into the cafe and you'd ask, who is the best person to speak to.
Yeah.
It might be the manager. Maybe the manager has, caveat to make those decisions, and maybe it's the owner sometimes. Yeah.
And the beauty of this is it really helps create a business for good. So suddenly this cafe is making an impact and saving the rainforest, and that's what I love about it. It's so simple. You've got this step-by-step process on the forestsmoothie.com website that anyone can follow. In an ideal world, how many cafes would you like to see on board in the next year?
Oh, okay, that changed my answer. Because in an ideal world, all of them.
All of them.
Yeah. But in the next year, I haven't even thought about this. I thought about with Yoga for Nature. I thought about this. I thought about milestones and measures, and it'd be great to have 100 studios on board in the first year. But I was met with a different reality, and because my expectations were out of sync with my reality, I became disappointed and disenchanted. So as a yogi, I'd rather not go in with expectations, but not, trying not to be a naive entrepreneur either. Not that I brand myself as one, but it does require some kind of business acumen to come up with a project. So, this question's aligned with my kind of business thinking, which I don't, tend to focus on too much. We're in 20 cafes globally and, locally here in Bali inside 2 months.
That's amazing.
So if we kept that trajectory, we'd have 100 inside the next year. That'd be pretty phenomenal. I'd be really happy with 100 cafes inside 1 year. And it's amazing to see them spring up. So I think we're about to have one spring up in Malaysia, one in Australia.
Excellent.
2 in Hong Kong. You can imagine when it starts popping up in Canada and North America, South America, close, Venezuela, Brazil, Uruguay, places close to the deforestation. That just gives me chills how people will, get some feel-good factor out of the project. When they can see the devastation that's being caused and they can see the solution on their table in front of them, that'd be pretty cool.
It's brilliant. As soon as you mentioned 100 cafes, I just got tingles all the way up my spine. If we think one cafe is protecting 70 acres a year, and they're doing that every month, what could 100 cafes do? And obviously you've reached 20 within 2 months, which is a fantastic trajectory. And it's such an amazing project, and it's so in line with Yoga for Nature as well. Would you like to tell us a little bit more about Yoga for Nature?
Yeah, so Yoga for Nature, the mechanisms of it, are very similar to Forest Smoothie. Instead of putting a Forest Smoothie in a cafe menu, we're putting a Yoga for Nature class in a yoga studio. So it might be a Yoga for Nature Hatha class, a Yoga for Nature Kundalini class, a sadhana class, a meditation, breath work. And then we connect that to a local cause. So we're creating a loop of education and funding between the yoga class and a cause, whether it's humanitarian or environmental. So our yoga practice, our asana practice, that morning, that afternoon, the evening, contributes to social change. So really, this is an opportunity for yoga studios all over the world to continue to teach, facilitate the physical practice, but also be a part of a social change movement, to become social change hubs. And I really think that the potential for the yoga community globally to bring forth this new paradigm, this new world of non-extractive industry, of giving back, and of making our relationships with the planet and people more sustainable and harmonious. I really think the yoga community are right up there in terms of, our Well, we don't have an agenda. We shouldn't have an agenda. There's no duality in yoga. There's no right and wrong. There's just presence, being present, and making decisions, as much as we can from love and wisdom. So Yoga for Nature is an effort to, for our yoga practice to contribute to social change. And it's a long game. Yoga for Nature is a project of mine that is about spiritual awakening. It's about changing the tide on, certainly, a couple of 100 years of human history where we've started to exploit one another, compete with one another, and take from the planet, post-industrialization, but also agriculture back 10,000 years ago. We started to centralize commodities. We saw nature as a commodity, and we started to farm, at a massive scale, and commune in massive numbers, in tight spaces. So we stopped. We couldn't know our neighbours anymore because there were hundreds of them, and we couldn't know our farmers. Yoga for Nature is about bringing back that community and making sure that we're serving people around us, because as we know, technology has two sides to it. It connects us globally, but it also means that perhaps we don't know our neighbours so well or understand their needs. So we're losing that sense of, or we're not losing, it's always there, but we're not using that innate compassion that we have as human beings.
Yeah, it's a really important point, and there's often simple solutions to connect us with our communities, and that's what I love about Yoga for Nature, the fact that every time someone's on their mat on a Wednesday at 12 p.m, that could be contributing to a local community project. And again, this is something that any of our listeners could do, is to get their local yoga studio on board, so that 1 or 2 classes a week can support a local project.
Yeah,
and it's amazing that this can be so accessible to everyone out there. So we can all make an impact, and even a small impact makes a big difference in the long term globally. So with Yoga for Nature, how could our listeners get their local studio involved?
Yes, as I say, it's very similar to Forest Smoothie. Instead of a menu, you have a schedule. So you put the Yoga for Nature class in your schedule. Obviously, there's some dialogue between myself or Yoga for Nature and the studio, and we find a cause that resonates with you or that you're passionate about. Maybe you're even involved in, and our role is actually just to share the story of what yoga is doing in your area, in terms of the contribution you're making to inspire other yoga studios around the world. Or maybe you've been looking for a SIVA project, a selfless service project, and we can help you find one in your local area, and we'll connect that class to it, and then we'll help fund it. And then hopefully we create, some traffic of yogis contributing, on the ground to this project as well. So it might be a planting, reforestation project, and the yogis can go, protect rainforest on a weekend, or plant trees, or build community spaces, community gardens, learn about permaculture, so that we can see that this pendulum swings the other way back towards doing things in a safe way for the future, for children. So just talk to the manager, the studio owner, and again, the website does a fairly decent job of explaining what we do. So yogafornature.org, and Facebook and Instagram are out there as well. So if you can bring our work to the attention of your yoga studio and just share your passion for it, share your passion for contributing. And when the managers see that, they see that your yoga has that side to it, that it's not, it's not just about the physical, spiritual practice. It's about the collaboration. It's about the unity. It's about ahimsa, about love.
Yeah.
Asteya, truth. All the other yamas and yamas, the other limbs of yoga, which, when we start to practice, with those in mind, our yoga takes off. That's my experience anyway, as a teacher and as a student. When we consider yoga as a full practice, it creates less suffering and more joy.
Yeah, I love that. I love that reflection. Yoga, it's not just for the mat, like meditation. It's not just for the cushion. It has to ripple through our whole lives and our whole being. And the truth is, we're all in this together as humanity, and we need to protect this beautiful planet that we're on. I heard an alarming statistic that 200 species a day are dying out. So every single one of us can make a small difference to reversing that. And yoga teachers, there's so many wonderful yoga teachers out there, and it'd be wonderful if you guys can start speaking to your yoga shalas and see what we can do to get yoga for nature into your local shala. I see you on the call, Claudia Wong. How are you? And yeah, you could speak to your local shala. That would be great to help yoga for nature and Forest Smoothie spread around the world, because what they achieve this year will be doubled or tripled next year. That's the way these things go. So we're all in it together. And I love this message from Ida Bagus, who says she's met you, Phil, a few months ago, and she's incredibly impressed with the project, and she can hardly wait to be invited and involved with the next projects. And the taste of the smoothie is so delicious. Every sip saves a plant. I love that. So yeah, keep up the great work, and it's a pleasure to have you here today on our Facebook Live.
Thanks.
And what message do you have for our listeners who are maybe thinking what they could do to help the global situation? Maybe they have a cause, close to their hearts that they've just not been able to activate yet. What advice and encouragement would you give them as a final note?
I think it's more reinforcement of what you've said, actually, about community, about making that first step, or actually not seeing any contribution as small or big. Just it's a contribution, and that's seismic. That's a fundamental change to embark on an action that isn't self-serving, or not directly anyway. We help somebody cross the street, we buy somebody lunch, we choose the organic vegetable over, one that's been chemically grown, good for us, good for the farmers, good for the earth. We make conscious choices. I think, these things can be big or small. Philanthropy, we donate money, but we're diligent about who we donate money to. We spend half an hour researching, the work of an organization. All of these things, I understand why we brand them big and small, but they all contribute to the whole. And really, and that comes back to collaboration and community and cooperation. In societies, generally Western societies, not so much in the East, but we really have been trained to look after ourselves and to compete, at a young age, in exams, and an A is good and a B is okay on the way to an A, but a C is on the way to a D, it's failure. We're trained to compete with one another, and I think we're doing this to our detriment now, and it's really time for for us to come together and see ourselves as brothers and sisters, despite, regardless of ethnicity and location, circumstance. my views on this have changed. I used to be a typical activist and hate CEOs of fossil fuel companies. Now I would love to sit around a table with them. I know it would be hard, but I would just see them as a brother or sister and try to speak to our common humanity.
Exactly.
So I think contribution and find your community, see what they need and what you need as well. Make sure that your needs are being met by yourself and loved ones.
Wonderful, thank you. And it's such a great point. If we think there's something missing in our lives, the chances are it's contribution, it's community, it's connection. So just start today, start in a small way, and if we all start contributing more often and just create that habit, then it'll just keep growing, and the ripple from that is exponential. We don't have to individually save the world. That's a big burden to start with. Just start small, and that could be as simple as getting one cafe on board for a smoothie and one yoga shala on board for yoga for nature. Thanks for listening. Thanks for tuning in. We love you madly.
Thank you.
Until the next time. Thanks, Phil.
Thanks.